was a bipartisan effort in Congress, a resolution that both Democrats and Republicans supported that would essentially get rid of US involvement in the issue, in the conflict in Yemen. Now, currently, the Saudi-led coalition has allied with the United States in that conflict, and it's led to a disastrous outcome. Famine, as many as 100 civilians are dying every single day in Yemen. People are going hungry. And so-
Little children.
Little children, yes. And so both Democrats and Republicans in Congress realized, no, we should not be involved in this. And so they did pass a resolution. Now, the update to this story is that Donald Trump has vetoed that resolution. The veto strikes down a resolution that invoked the War Powers Act to distance the United States from a 4-year conflict that has killed thousands of civilians and resulted in a widespread famine. As many as 10 million people are on the brink of famine, and as many as 100 civilian casualties. There are as many as 100 civilian casualties each week. Trump says, no, we're gonna continue being involved. The reasoning he gives is ridiculous. He says, quote, the resolution is an unnecessary, dangerous attempt to weaken my constitutional authorities, as if he cares about the Constitution, endangering the lives of American citizens and brave service members, both today and in the future. So the part of that I'm focusing on in regard to how ridiculous it is the second part, especially. Endangering the lives of American citizens and brave service members. How?
Well, I mean, if those people are brought back to the US, God only knows what might happen to them. There's a terrible American diet. It could start to take its toll.
Yeah, it's funny. I have my bigger issues with the first part because he manages to turn a humanitarian crisis in Yemen with the millions on the brink of starvation, on the brink of a famine, and he's like, my powers.
And he means powers.
You weaken my power, right?
Right.
My constitutional authority. It's not about you, right? And you didn't even start this, right? This is leftover from the Obama administration. I did an interview before the movie, the last year. I hope I have the final year. The Obama foreign policy team, which was Ben Rhodes, Samantha Power, John Kerry, mostly Samantha Power and Ben Rhodes, and Greg Barker directed it. And it's good because he had great access, including a couple interviews with Obama, but mostly a look at the sort of foreign policy during the final year when they know they're leaving office. And then this Q&A I did with them afterwards, and I said, look, well, obviously a lot of the talk was about the election. They all thought Hillary was going to win, and they would be there would be a through line in foreign policy when they handed things off to Hillary. And what was the biggest foreign policy mistake you guys made, biggest regret? And Samantha Power was like, Yemen. Like we goofed it, we left this mess for incompetent people to handle, but it was ours and we didn't solve it.
Donald Trump is a warmonger. He said during the campaign he's the most militaristic person in the world, and that has been borne out. Of course, he doesn't care if
he's the
more
most
people
militaristic person you've ever met.
Yeah. So that's how he would put it, actually.
But actually,
and so yeah, we're gonna.
I mean, he had, as always, conflicting messages because on one hand, and this certainly resonated with his base, it even resonated with Democratic voters, where he would argue that we shouldn't be involved in all these wars, right? There was no reason for us to invade Iraq. There's no reason for us to still be in Afghanistan. He presented himself as an anti-war president, or an anti-war candidate, I should say, many times.
Yeah, but it's
like obviously we know that's a lie.
I know, but I'm saying like he would say something super vague, like we shouldn't be involved there. Then he would say we should go and bomb their families. So like you can't take the overarching vague message. If he's specifically saying I would loosen the rules of engagement, I would do this, I would do that, well then take him at his word. First of all, he loves Saudi Arabia, so he's gonna want to support them in this. And also, just as a precedent, he doesn't like that for the first time in 40+ years, the War Powers Act is actually being invoked. He doesn't want it being invoked in other conflicts in the future, so he can't abide by the use of it in this case.
Look, man, yes, you're right. He did give indications that he was going to sort of scale back America's far-reaching involvement militaristically around the globe. But out of the other mouth, he would give plenty of indications he knew more than the generals, and he's going to wipe. I mean, I don't know. I know we all recognized it, but he's a con man, right? That's what he's always been. He's a fraud. So you don't take what they say seriously. Any leftist who fell for, this guy's going to scale back, you don't know, you never understood what you were looking at with Donald Trump.
So for those who might wonder how we're involved in Yemen, right now the US government is the US military, I should say, is providing logistical support for the Saudi-led coalition. Previously, we were assisting the Saudis with fuel. We are no longer doing that, but we are still very much involved with the logistical support. And so again, there was a bipartisan effort to scale that back and no longer be involved in the conflict.
And logistical support means helping them come up with targets, I think. Yeah. So
I would say more fundamentally, we're allowing them to have a functioning military, especially a functioning Air Force.
Yeah.
I had a reporter from The Intercept, Alex Emmons, on my show today to talk about a new report that came out of France about the war effort. And they broke down exactly, like they made clear the lie. You should watch the interview. Back a couple of months ago, after Jamal Khashoggi was murdered by the Saudi regime, Trump was saying, no, we can't stop selling them weapons, and it doesn't matter anyway, they'll just get them from someone else. But the thing is, they use our weapon systems, they use our vehicles. Those parts are not interchangeable, the weapons are interchangeable. You can't just throw a Russian missile into an F-16, or let alone the other planes that we've sent to them. We have leverage over them because their military, especially their Air Force, is dependent on us to continue to function, not only for day-to-day targeting, but also for training and for spare parts when the vehicles get damaged. And we chose not to use that. We chose to continue along with this. And although it seems extremely unlikely that that the veto will be overridden in the House or in the Senate especially, because I think there were 16 Republicans in the House, 7 Republicans in the Senate, it's not enough. I still think that Bernie Sanders and I believe it was Chris Murphy, Ro Khanna, and a few others get tons of credit for not just talking the talk on being anti-war, but actually working week after week and month after month to try to end our involvement in one of these conflicts.
Just and I think I think all those people deserve a tremendous amount of credit, but nobody more than Ro Khanna, who does it in sort of.
Ro Khanna was attempting to meet with Trump to try to persuade him, to avoid vetoing the resolution. It's unclear whether or not he got that meeting. I'm gonna guess no, but I do wanna just quickly read some of the statements coming from these members of Congress. First with Senator Bernie Sanders, this is graphic 10. He says via Twitter, "The people of Yemen desperately need humanitarian help, not more bombs. I'm disappointed but not surprised that Trump has rejected the bipartisan resolution to end US involvement in the horrific war in Yemen." And as Ben mentioned, Ro Khanna was a very important part of this resolution. He says, quote, "This is very sad and a missed opportunity by the president to stand up for the Constitution. He ignored the views of his allies like Rand Paul, Mark Meadows, and Matt Gaetz, all of whom voted against endless war and these interventions." He also continues to say, "The most urgent task now is for the United States to call on the Saudis to lift the blockade in Yemen so 14 million civilians don't face famine." And this is the second time that Trump has used his veto power. The first time, of course, was when he vetoed attempts to stop, he used the veto so he could declare the national emergency at the border.
At the border,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. And we don't need to remind you that we're still in a national emergency. It's a national emergency, so you feel it every day, right?
It's amazing.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.